So now that we have our vertical line test, we're going to start looking at equations. So how can I look at an equation and try to figure out if the graph will create a function? What do you think we can do? So I had you investigate this a little bit on the previous screen. So what we're going to do now, if I'm given this equation, I can quickly come up with a few points, sketch the graph, and then use my vertical line test to determine if it's going to be a function or not. Okay, so what that means, I'm going to start with my small sketch, and I'm going to say this is x and this is y. So then I'm going to create a table of values. So I'm going to do x and y. I'm going to go this way so that it fits a little bit nicer. And I'm just going to pick a few x values. Again, x is your independent. So they're independent, does not depend on anything. They're the values you can come up with. They're your input of the function. So here when we're starting to talk about equations, the language of input makes a little bit more sense to us because my x values are going to be what I input into my equation to see what my output is going to be. So I'm going to pick a couple input values, and it's a good rule of thumb. I pick a negative value, I pick a 0, and I pick a positive value because you always want to see how the graph behaves kind of around your x and y axis. Okay, so I'm actually, now that I'm speaking out loud, I wanted my graph to be my 4 quadrants like this. Okay. So again, I typically pick a -1, or let's go -2. I'm going to pick a 0 and I pick a 2. So if I'm sketching graphs, I always kind of pick that. 3 points is enough to see a good pattern, but you want to make sure you're picking some negatives and some positives, and 0 just so that you can see how it behaves around that middle part. So I put my inputs into the function. So that's telling me that y is equal to, if x is -2, right? I'm just plugging into x here plus 2. What is that going to give you? We have 0 here. I'm going to plug in a 0. So let's say y at -2, y at 0 is equal to 0 plus 2, which is 2. And then I have y at +2. So if I plug in 2 for x, I get 4. So again, we can really see that language of input and output. I inputted all of my values here, and I got a 0, a 2, and a 4. So we're going to go ahead and sketch the graph. So I'm going to be precise here, as precise as I can. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So now if I go ahead and just plot my points, I have -2 and 0. I have 0 and 2, and then I have 2 and 4. Once you have your points, as best you can, draw your line connecting them just to get a good sense of what your pattern is going to be. And then you're going to analyze it. So looking here, I can use that vertical line test that we just talked about. And I can see that if I throw a vertical line through any point on that graph, it's going to be a function because it's not hitting it twice. So we're going to say, yes, it is a function.